from the Energy Boutique with your Energy and Ascension Forecast for Sunday, May 22nd to Saturday, May 28th. So last week we had our eclipse portal come to a close with the full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio. It was definitely dark, definitely weighted. We did lots of shadow work. Many of us paralyzed under this particular energy. And with the chaos, the confusion, the divine script playing out, many of us had a lot of loss, had a lot of chaotic situations take place to help us detach, to help us be raw and vulnerable enough to be open-minded and more adaptable to the changes that are taking place in our physical reality. We also had a week of wrapping up Taurus season. Again, if you go back to the beginning of when Taurus season began, we knew it was going to be low. We knew it was going to be slow. We knew it was going to be tough in order to actually bring to life some of the elements in our physical circumstances that we knew we had to create in order to build a safe and stable foundation for us to actually build upon. Of course, Taurus season was littered with eclipse energy, was littered with retrograde energy. Many of us did not see a level of productivity at all. That's okay. The elements have been recognized. The seeds have been identified. And throughout this last week of trying to wrap up this Taurus season, we definitely got a glimpse on what has actually been illuminated, needing change, needing transformation. We have to keep in mind that the eclipse portal was about what we were overly attached to, what it was that we were essentially holding on to, blocking our blessings, blocking the path forward. The whole eclipse axis of the Taurus and Scorpio energy is about what we have to let go of in order to create the space for us to build new elements in. It's very much a very disturbing time. Many of us, again, suffering detachment, loss, where we wish that we weren't experiencing it. But things are not happening to us, they're happening for us. It may take some time to realize where the space was needed in order for us to create something new. However, the wheels are already turning. The action has already been initiated. So for many of us, it's been very low, very slow, very unproductive. If you're listening to me on Friday evening, I want to thank you so much for being here. We have the sun at 29 degrees in Taurus, preparing to shift into Gemini energy. Now, Gemini season, if you haven't listened to the astro forecast that I put out, I'm going to definitely recommend that you do that. But the sun moves into Gemini energy 9:23 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So by the time that we're done this forecast, we will be around the time that the sun moves out of Taurus energy and into Gemini. So with Gemini energy, we're moving into the mental plane. Mercury, of course, rules over Gemini season. Mercury is retrograde. There's a lot of reflection, a lot of review, a lot of looking back before we can go ahead and actually get started on moving forward. Now, this is going to frustrate a lot of us. We have a lot of pressure in our heads. We are processing new information, new perspective, new thoughts, new ideas at a very rapid rate. There is a total shift in paradigm taking place when we move into Gemini season. And of course, the duality, the polarity of our lives are going to be illuminated in order for us to find a new balance point, a new grounding point as we debate the pros and cons of the very extreme choices, decisions, and paths that are currently being offered up to us. So, with that being said, what's going on this week? Well, like I said, we're entering into Gemini season. That's going to be a shift all in itself. We have the last quarter moon taking place in Pisces on Sunday, which means that this is the total release point from the eclipse energy, from the chaos, from a lot of the things that we've had removed out of our lives. This is a crisis point of consciousness where we start connecting the dots, where we make peace with some of the things that have been very disruptive, chaotic, and hurtful in our lives. This last quarter moon in Pisces is going to be highly emotional, highly intuitive. We're going to gain huge vision, huge insight on what it is that A, had to transpire in order for us to be here, and B, what it is that we're making peace with so that we can formulate a better strategy, a better path, a better opportunity for us in moving forward. The last quarter moon in Pisces is going to feel highly emotional, but let me tell you, with the Schumann Resonance, with the solar flares, with the plasma popping off right now, the energy is getting higher. It's getting to a higher vibration and frequency. The 21st is a pivotal day for new light codes to actually be anchored in, for the framework of the 5D to actually be locked into our earth plane. And with that, a certain collapse of some of the 3D constructs, restraints, restrictions will collapse in that timeline as well. We're moving into a week where we are aligning with the Palladium star system, which means that because they are primarily a huge group of highly intelligent beings giving us light codes, we are going to feel a lot of energy take place. And the fact that it coincides with the dark force agenda meeting to, kind of get their evildoer plans together. If you don't know what I'm talking about, WEF, WHO convention, okay? Look it up. It's basically all the evildoers of the 3D timeline, the 3D construct that are meeting in order to push their agenda. They're in a fearful state because of the awakening that is happening all across the collective, and because the new light codes are coming in, because this is a direct parallel with the Palladium star system, you best believe that it is going to be very bumpy for the next week. It's very imperative that you hold on to love, compassion, understanding, joy, pleasure, happiness, so that we can override this fearful timeline, this fear-based timeline, this pain and suffering that they're trying to inflict on the world. It has been for basically centuries, but we're really coming to a point because, as you know, the war has already been won in other dimensions. What we're experiencing here on the earth plane is simply the fallout of what has already transpired in other realms. We also have Mercury going retrograde, continuing to be retrograde, I should say, conjuncting the Sun at a 0 degree in Gemini before it moves back into Taurus energy. Now, we just had Mercury in Taurus. It went retrograde very shortly as Mercury moved into its place of power in Gemini. Now, in retrograde, moving back into Tauran energy, we're putting the blinders back on. We have to really focus on what we failed to bring to life. New ideas, new plans, new strategies, new perspectives, new understandings. Because we've had this kind of shift in the energy, in the paradigm, in our perspective, in our understanding, in our options, in new information coming forth, we have to go back to the drawing board. We have to focus on what it is that is most important right now. Again, we're in a retrograde, which means we have to reflect, review, revisit, revise before we're actually going to move forward and bringing some of these elements to life. This week, we are also going to wrap up Mars's time in Piscean energy. Mars will be moving into his place of power in Aries energy on the 24th. You best believe that we are going to feel this shift. Mars rules over our physical energy, our drive, our passion, even our anger. And in his place of power in Aries, a fire sign, this is where we're going to make up for lost time. This is where we're going to see huge amounts of change, of transformation, of productivity. And before that even happens, we have to reach that critical degree, that 29th degree in Piscean energy. And of course, Piscean energy, the light part of it, is our intuition, our soul contracts, our dreams, our creativity. The shadow part of that, though, is escapism, is a detachment from reality, is wanting to numb, wanting to run, wanting to hide. Why? Because Pisces brings things full circle. And right now, we have to have a certain ending, a certain closure to some of the dreams that we're no longer in alignment with, to some of the actions that we thought we were going to take that now, because of the retrograde and the eclipse season, have to be revisited and rewritten. And when Mars actually moves into his place of power in Aries, that is technically a brand new beginning. Mars takes 2 years to go through all of the signs. So it's been a while since he's been able to step into power, to be on the throne, so to speak. And because many of us, especially since the beginning of this year, have had a hard time bringing to life some of the key factor elements of our new realities, we are technically going to feel a burst of energy where new passions, new desires, new paths need to actually be aggressively taken advantage of in order for us to quote unquote make up for lost time. Now, on the global stage, we're likely going to see a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, a lot of fighting, even maybe a little bit of violence. That, of course, is the toxic shadow part of Mars in Aries. We also have to consider that Mars is the masculine energy of the cosmos, and many people right now in low vibrational frequencies will be tapping into the toxic masculinity aspects that all of us, this has nothing to do with male or female, we all have masculine and feminine energies within us, and this is definitely going to heighten the ugliness of the shadow realm, of the toxic masculinity energy, and that's where we may see fighting and aggression, so on and so forth. For those of us that are in the higher realms, tapping into the positive sides of this energy, again, we're initiating, we are seeing brand new beginnings, we are taking the lead, we are fighting for what is right, we are aligning with our passion and with our desires. So it's definitely going to be a huge shift. And anytime that we're talking about Aries energy, we have to be very mindful because Aries energy tends to burn itself out very early on in the quest. Now, what's super interesting is that Mars is entering into the beginning phase of this Aries energy, while Venus, the feminine divine energy, the goddess of love and beauty and passion and love and value and relationships and money matters, is at the end of Aries energy and will be moving into her place of power, stepping into her comfort zone, taking her crown and her throne in Taurus energy on Saturday the 28th. So let me just throw this out here. To have the masculine divine energy and the feminine divine energy both in their places of power is definitely going to be felt. This is when the give and take, the push and pull, the balance is restored. This is where we're fighting for what makes us happy, for what has been out of balance. This is essentially a time for us to even the playing field with two of these very powerful beings representing the dualistic and polarized energy of our individual selves and the collective in their place of power, doing what they do best in order to restore peace and harmony and balance to our physical realms. So this is going to be quite an interesting week, not to mention that we are building towards the new moon in Gemini at 9 degrees on the 30th. So of course, we'll dive more into that into next week's Ascension and energy forecast. But just know that we have all these shifts taking place as we are essentially moving into the dark phase of the moon. And the dark phase of the moon, especially in Gemini energy, means that we're going to have a lot of information thrown at us throughout this week that will likely be very chaotic, very misunderstood, will put us in a position to rethink, recalibrate, reorganize, revisit, revise, all of those lovely words, because of course, Mercury, the ruler of the new moon in Gemini, is still retrograde. So, with that being said, I do want to take a moment and just kind of give you a heads up, fill you in on what's going on with me. Many of you, especially if you've been listening to me for any amount of time, have likely noticed over the last couple of days that my energy is off and that I'm talking a little bit weird. Many of you know that I have been going through a very traumatic dental journey since the beginning of this year. And even further than that, my dental trauma started, years and decades ago. And this week I did have my second stage of surgery. So first of all, I'm going to just address the fact that those of you who do know what's going on have said to me, "You had a dental surgery in a Mercury retrograde? I thought you weren't supposed to do that." So I wanted to address that. If this had been a new thing, I definitely would have postponed this surgery until after Mercury got out of its retrograde and went direct. But anything that you initiate before Mercury goes retrograde, it's almost a safe place for you to continue to do that while Mercury is retrograde. Another thing, Mercury rules over, our voice, our throat chakra, our mouth, the way that we communicate. And dental work is all about that. So I have been going through a restoration, a reword, where we are repairing problems, where I needed to reorganize my health and wellness. So for me, taking a look at my in particular chart, taking a look at the aspects that were at play, it did not scare me at all to go ahead and have this dental work done during a retrograde. However, that being said, everything went fine. So, check mark for that. However, my face hurts and it does kind of pose a little bit more difficulty for me to talk the way that I normally talk. My energy is down. I am trying to manage the pain and the discomfort without any drugs because, as you may or may not know, I like to keep it clean, and that in itself is posing a lot of problems. And, the situation that occurs with dental work, to drink room temperature water is absolutely excruciating. The food that you're allowed to eat, totally different. The pressure in your head just absolutely kills you. I'm not allowed to do yoga, I'm not allowed to take a bath, not allowed to do a lot of things that, is a part of my routine. So I'm definitely discombobulated here at this time. My energy, my voice will be a little bit of an issue, a little bit of a center point while I go through this particular recovery stage. So I wanted to let you know. I wanted to also thank those of you that know what's up, that have extended well wishes and healing energies to me. I truly, truly appreciate that. But I did want to be totally transparent and just address why you might hear me in a different way, might hear my energies off, might hear the struggle that I'm currently going through in order to actually talk. But as I preach, we got to show up, and I continue to show up regardless of what's going on because I have a job to do. We have a job to do. And we're moving into a super, super powerful week of energies. And I thought to myself, you know what? This is a way to try and keep me down, try and keep the information from getting out of there. But of course, I rise to the challenge. So I appreciate y'all just struggling with me, listening to me here tonight. I am a little bit winded, a little bit not on the game that I usually am on. But like I said, I've showed up. I'm here. I'm pushing through. I'm doing my best. So there's a couple of things that I would like to talk about as far as global events go before I actually jump into some of the Ascension symptoms. I feel like we are at a very, very important time in the awakening process. I feel like we are seeing a lot of events on the world stage happening and coinciding with some very powerful events that are going on in the cosmos as well. And I want to talk about them. So the Palladium Portal that I talked about, This is a star system in our cosmos. They are, the Palladians are definitely, I'm going to say, on our side, our protectors, definitely trying to provide us with guidance in order how to navigate this transformative time here on Earth. The fact that the Palladium Portal kind of opens up for us and is at its most powerful energies from the 22nd to the 28th is kind of remarkable, because late Wednesday we started having huge spikes on the Schumann Resonance, which we haven't had in a very long time. They continued into Thursday, leading into a blackout. So we know when the Schumann Resonance is displaying a blackout, one of two things are happening. The first is that the energy is so high that the instruments that they use kind of get knocked out. They're unable to register that kind of energy, which is a huge possibility when you take a look at the solar flares and the plasma popping off the sun. The second reason of why we could see a blackout on the Schumann Resonance is because those that display the information in the data remove the information in the data for, let's say, mysterious reasons. Now, the fact that we have this whole Geneva Convention going on with the evildoers of the world from the 22nd to the 26th, well, that's a very interesting thing, right? So I want to talk about a couple of the things that are coming up on the global stage right now that are a little bit concerning and that are technically just fear-mongering tactics by the evil agenda in order to keep us in a state of paralysis and fear so that we will conform and obey a little bit better and a little bit easier than we have in the past. So many of you will know, and this is nothing new, but the chemtrails that are visible now that are all too frequent all over the world, that is definitely an area of concern. What I would want to say, especially to my Canadians right now, in Ontario specifically and out west, is that they are spraying huge amounts of pesticides in the air, all under the guise to try and control the moth population. What my gut knows to be true is that there is a much deeper reason for this particular situation to be transpiring, and a lot of it has to do with food and agriculture. So in Canada, specifically out west, those are our farming provinces, if you will, Ontario as well, but out west, there's been a lot of cases of the avian flu out there where, farmers have lost all of their livestock. And what I think is happening, because if you look at the weather patterns that are taking place, like they're still getting random snowstorms out west as of right now in May, I think that whatever chemicals, pesticides, viruses that they are unleashing is kind of being distributed, especially out west right now, through the snow, through the snowstorms. In Ontario, I think it's pretty clear. I mean, you can look at the clouds over the last week and realize that they're not even real clouds, that it's actually, harmful pesticides and chemicals being used. I don't think against the moss. I think it's against us, totally contaminating gardens, livestock, killing off agriculture. Now, this is happening all over the world, but just like I'm in Canada, so this is the most recent news coming out of Canada for us. Of course, if you're in the States or another area in the world, it's likely happening there as well. But in Canada, there's actually a book released in 2011 called Resetting the Table. And it talks about how they are going to reset the agriculture, the growing, the harvesting of the foods in Canada. And they kind of talk about how eating healthy is not affordable for most people. And this is another way that they are trying to force the universal basic income on Canadians, which of course is part of the digital ID program, which is a part of the New World Order, which is what all the evildoers are doing over in Geneva this week, talking about how they're going to, crunch down and really kind of manipulate the population even further than they've already done. Now, down in the States, I know I have a huge audience down in the States. Thank you so much for being here. I know this is nothing new to you guys. You guys, especially in LA, California, I know that the chemtrails are like a daily thing now and very evident. But I want you to pay attention to the states that are actually farming states as well. Now, I don't know how we're going to protect ourselves from this other than creating greenhouse situations where we're not reliant on, the weather contaminating our plants, our crops, our animals, our livestock. But we're going to have to get crafty because their want, need, and desire to continue this food shortage program is absolutely disgusting. And we're going to have to do something with it. And I plead with anyone out there listening that if you are a pilot of some of these planes that are putting the chemtrails in the sky, please do what is right and just stop contributing to this overall dark force agenda. I know that you're at the mercy of losing your job or what have you, but we need everyday people to start doing what is right. And the dark force agenda, those elitists, they're just a small group of people, and they're pretty much playing us against ourselves. And the minute that we all come together and unify and say that this shit stops with us is the day that the paradigm in the game is going to be over completely. Now, that being said, we're already starting to see the fear mongering take place again. Let me just go back for a second and talk about the full moon lunar eclipse that we had in Scorpio. There was a lot of death, a lot of mass murders, a lot of shootings take place around that. And if you don't understand that that was a blood ritual, that was a sacrifice, that those were false flags, I'm going to recommend that you go ahead and you give yourself a little bit of time to research those events and see the narrative that they're trying to push, the fear that they're trying to push onto the population. All of these events, align with astrology because the elitists use astrology because knowledge is power, and they're choosing to use the knowledge in a powerful way to destroy us and better their agenda. We have the exact same opportunity to use the knowledge, to use the power in order to bring them down. So it all comes down to visualization. And what I would like for you to do, whether you're in a fearful state or not, first of all, you got to get out of a fearful state. Fear and lower vibrational frequencies are feeding the dark force agenda. You're making them win if that's the state of being that you're in. But we also have to override the program. There's more of us than there ever will be of them. And we have to start visualizing. We have to start visualizing these airplanes doing this dirty work of the dark force agenda. We have to imagine them disappearing. We have to imagine, engine failure so that they're not able to get up in the skies. We have to imagine, and I hate to say this because we don't want to cause harm to anyone. We have to have love for each and every single one of us, regardless of what side of the game we're on here. But we have to imagine these planes just somehow disappearing in our skies before they're able to drop the poison onto the earth. In the same token, we have to concentrate very hard on basically suffocating the dark force agenda out. We have to envision love and compassion and empathy and happiness and joy, even of the darkest circumstances, because love always wins. And right now they're pushing such fear-based narratives that we really have to do our part in upping our game as spiritual warriors to override this program. Now, the food shortage is a manufactured situation. I want to talk about the shortage of formula. First of all, the fact that most women in North America have problems naturally breastfeeding is no surprise, is no coincidence. They've been contaminating our bodies from the minute we were born, and females in particular. Like, look at the deodorant, look at the antiperspirant, filling up our mammary glands with all of this junk. Our lymph system is just filled with toxic poison, microplastics, all of these horrible things that, of course, are going to jeopardize the natural function of us being able to produce milk and actually breastfeed our children. And it's no wonder that they do that because, of course, the infant formula is filled with lots of harmful ingredients, lots of toxic ingredients, because, of course, they want to poison our children. They want our children to be sick from a young age. One would say, well, why would they want to do that? Well, because they own the pharmaceutical company. Pharmaceutical companies are the top dog of their moneymakers. That's, that we're not in a state of health care. This is sick care. They need us to be sick from an early age. They need us to be constantly ill and fighting ailments and needing prescription drugs throughout our whole life. And it starts with babies. It starts with children. Now, I know I went on a little bit of a rant. I don't know if it was last week or a couple weeks ago, because time is just elusive to me. But I mean, there's a fight, there's an attack, there's a war on babies, right? Like, they're coming after your children, whether they're already in you cooking in order to try and kind of create a baby. They're coming after your babies. The minute that the baby is outside of you, they're coming after your babies. They want your babies. We have to protect the children. That's our main thing to do in this new light grid that we are trying to anchor in, is we have to protect the children at all costs. And this food shortage is one thing. This infant formula shortage is another thing, because it's really only taking place in North America. You can look at Mexico right now. They have no issue. They're stocked up. They're ready to go. And you know what? We're going to have to get crafty on how it is that we're going to override these programs that these dark force agenda people are trying to put on us. I want to talk about something else that is just fresh out in the news. This monkeypox. My Jesus, is anybody really asleep and so stupid to think that this isn't the planned second pandemic that Gates talked about? Like, did we not learn anything from the whole vid? Did we not learn anything from Event 201? Like, he said it was coming, and this is it. And if you look at it, smallpox vaccine protects about 85% of people, unless, of course, you got the Jabberwocky, which definitely kills your immune system. And that's exactly what their plan is. It's not that these, well, I mean, they are man-made type of viruses, but if you don't have an immune system to fight even the common cold off, then yeah, you're going to see a rise in sickness and illness and hospitalizations and in deaths. And here's the thing, this monkeypox, the signs and symptoms of this monkeypox very much resembles the AIDS symptoms. And I know it's a scary thing. And I know there's a lot of cognitive dissonance out there of people that got the Jabberwocky that don't want to face the fact that they got fooled, that they got tricked, that they actually harmed themselves. But there's so much data and information and statistics. Everybody preaching for the last 2 years to trust the science. And now the science is actually proving that this was the most harmful thing that anybody could have ever put in their bodies. And the side effects, the adverse effects that it's created, and the next pandemic that is going to come out of having the population with no immune systems to fight off these man-made viruses, even natural viruses at this point, is a scary, scary freaking thing. Do not let this fear-mongering, false narrative put you in a state of fear so that you are feeding the dark force agenda, okay? This is trickery. They want you to be afraid because, psychologically speaking, people that are in fear are looking for someone else to take control. That's how they control us, is to keep us in a state of fear. If you find yourself in a state of fear, whether it's over this or something else, you have to envision the happiest reality that you could ever envision for yourself and invoke a feeling of joy and happiness and love and compassion. Think about something that makes you laugh. Think about something that you love dearly. This is how we override the program. This is how we win. Love always wins. So they're throwing that at us. The last thing I want to talk about, as far as this fear-mongering narrative goes, is this UFO talk. Let me be very clear with you. They are planning a fake alien invasion. For those of you, especially Christians, that have been deluded to think that the fallen angels are actually demonic and that the aliens are demonic and they're coming to kill us and they're coming to harm us, if you are under that false narrative, I feel bad for you, but you have to be aware of the fact that there are alien beings out there that have done nothing but create us, have done nothing but protect us, that have done nothing but guide us into the state of evolution that this whole earth plane was designed for, okay? There are alien intelligence that will come visit us, that are peaceful beings, that are not demons, that are not here to hurt or harm us, but they will be coming after. They are not coming now. Anything that is coming now that is quote unquote alien, please know, is a false setup, false narrative, meant to scare you, meant to really create a lot of turbulence, a lot of division, a lot of chaos here in this earth plane. The narrative, because you have now people talking about it, especially in the government and high up governments, you know, the disclosure rate of information coming out about what it is that they've always known about UFOs and intelligent beings outside of our earth plane. It is only coming into perspective, being talked about, because this is the setup that they are using in order to fake the alien invasion, in order to scare everybody. Why? Because if you have all of humanity afraid of one thing, what better way is there to form a one world government? Right? Let me tell you, they create the problem that they already have the solution for. If they have an end goal, an end game of the agenda that they're trying to push, they know how to set it up. They know how to psychologically position us to basically invite them to tell us what to do. Please protect us. Please keep us safe. Well, in order to get all of humanity on that same page, you need to scare the shit out of them. And you need to do it in such a way that mimics the real life version of what, you know, aliens or a higher form of extraterrestrial intelligence would do or would be or would act or would behave. You take the basic foundation of what is real and you taint it, right? You paint it in a different, very scary kind of color to invoke chaos and fear and confusion among the earthlings, so that, of course, they already have the solution prepared. They already have, you know, an out, which, big picture, is a one world government that we need to be fighting against with everything that we got. This is another fear-based narrative that they are using to prep us into voluntarily kind of letting them into saving us. We do not want this. Please do not fall for this. This is why it's important to have intuition and your own connection with the universe, with source. You have to have your third eye open and awake so that you don't fall for these freaking false programs. It is so frustrating because you have to keep in mind they use social media, they use our biometrics, they use our algorithms, they use our energy in order to identify whether or not we're ready for this kind of awakening, for this kind of disclosure, and then they use it against us. The majority of the population on Earth right now would love to see the aliens show up because many of us understand that the aliens are actually the creator race of what us Earthlings have actually turned into be. We understand that there are multiple extraterrestrial beings out there that have done nothing but try to protect Earth from being taken over by these evildoers. Unfortunately, the evildoers have been kind of planted as parasites on this Earth plane for far too many years now. This is the stage of us extinguishing those dark force energies off of our planet for good. But unfortunately, those dark force agendas know where it is that we're all at due to social media, due to the algorithm, due to our intuition, due to our consciousness, our hive consciousness, and will be using that against us. So please be open, please be aware of what is going on. Okay, I've been waiting for this for over a decade. Okay, this is why they brought me back to life. This is why they've put me through the training that I've had to go through. This is why I've been put in this position to use this platform to bring awareness against what it is that I would prefer to do. Because as many of you know, I would just love to curl up into a ball and not have anybody ever hear me or speak my name ever again. However, the soul contract that I signed in order to have a second go at life was very much meant for this awakening. And I've been waiting for this for over a decade. I'm so glad that there are actually people awake now that know what it is that I've been ranting about for the last decade. But here we are at a very pivotal point. We are entering into the next phase of this awakening process. We are peaking in the solar cycle of 25 that is setting us up for the great solar flash that is likely coming at us in anywhere between 2024 to 2026. This is the ascension process. This is boot camp. This is essentially the prepper stage for the huge shift in paradigm here on Earth among the collective that we have been actively working towards. So to be talking about this right now, when I'm literally in so much pain to even be talking, please know how important these messages are for me to get out. For me, like, they have been working overtime, especially with my dental situation and my voice. They have been working overtime to keep my mouth shut. They do not like that I push through, that I show up regardless of how much pain and discomfort I'm in order to talk about this stuff. I will be punished greatly for it. Doesn't matter. I'm here to do a job. I'm here to fulfill my contract. This is why I show up. This is why I talk about it. So please understand that what I speak about, what I am finally trying to be open about, because it does bring a lot of negative energy towards me in doing so. Please understand that what I talk about is very, very important, that I have to at least plant the seed in your mind space so that you are open and aware that when these events start popping off, that hopefully the little reminder voice of me pops into your head and you can say, I heard this before. This is the setup. This is what they want me to think. This is what's really going on. This is what I need to do in order to override the program. So, with that being said, May 21st, tomorrow, is a pivotal day. It is a pivotal day because we are entering into the next phase of this awakening process, of this ascension process, of the spiritual war that we've been in, and essentially all the work that we've been doing from the Great Awakening up until now is being anchored into our physical earth plane. Tomorrow is the last day that we have before moving into this very pivotal energetic week with both the Palladians helping us out, downloading us with new light codes and sending new information and guidance and protection systems into the earth plane, and the dark force agenda grasping at all straws in order to push their narrative that much further. Okay, so this week, I don't care what comes at you, you have to override the program. Fear, frustration, anger, all those negative vibrations and frequencies, you need to have a happy place. You need to go into that happy place in your mental frame. You need to hold on to what makes you happy, what brings you joy, what makes you laugh. That is how we are going to eliminate the dark force vibrations and frequencies that are grasping at straws right now to keep us in a state of fear and paralysis. That is what I'm asking of you. I'm asking you to be very consciously aware, which you should be anyways at this point in the game, but especially this week. I want you to be very consciously aware of what you allow to happen in your mental plane. We are now in Gemini season. Our mental planes are our main focus. There is a lot of division, duality, polarity going on in our mental narratives. We have to override the system. We have to cut the looping, fearful, negative perspectives and narratives in our head. We have to cut them off. We have to implement a new program, a new system that is better going to align us with the higher vibrational frequencies, more so than the lower vibrational frequencies of pain and fear and trauma. So, with that out of the way, I do want to talk about the ascension symptoms that we can likely count on experiencing as we move throughout this week. Because A, we are in Gemini season and Mercury rules over Gemini season. And B, Mercury being retrograde, preparing to move back into Taurus energy. We have to focus on the pressure in our head because of the new light codes coming in, because of the new information coming in, because of both the dark force and light force agendas fighting it out in other realms. We are going to have a war on our consciousness, on our attention, on our focus, on our energy. The crown chakra will be popping off. You will have a lot of rapid thoughts, a lot of very confusing thoughts come up. You will have buzzing in your ears. You will have pressure, a vice grip feeling on your head. You will have ears popping and ringing. You will have jaw and teeth issues. And I'm not even trying to laugh because, of course, I'm having a lot of teeth and jaw issues right now. But we are going through an attack on our higher realms of thought, of our crown, of our third eye, of our voice, of our throat chakra. So everything kind of above the shoulders is going to be very much pressurized. You have to do everything you can in order to have control over your thoughts, in order to be aware of the programs, the seeds being planted in your mental plane, and override that with a better program. With that being said, because we are moving towards the last quarter moon in Pisces, it is a conscious point. It is a crisis of consciousness. It is a weight energy. It is very heavy. I don't want to even take you back to Pisces season, but Pisces season, especially when Jupiter was in Pisces, was a very, very difficult time. This is a full release point, an ending point, a rebirthing point, the resurrection point that we've been going through, especially with this eclipse portal that we just moved out of. That was about death, rebirth, resurrection, renewal. After this last quarter moon in Pisces, we are going to be in the rebirthing resurrection stage. It likely is going to feel a little bit heavy, a little bit weighted, like it's too much, like you just want to run away. This is the point where you have to muster up the courage and the bravery to stand in those uncomfortable feelings and override your thoughts, your energy, your emotion with something better. This is going to be, quote unquote, the breakdown before the breakthrough. We have to feel the weight of the world on our shoulders so that we can appreciate the lightness once it's removed, once it's released. We will be going through a detachment type of situation because many of us have been holding on to things, right? Very much the Scorpio energy from the eclipse. This might be manifesting as swelling or water weight or puffiness in your body. We are going to be releasing all that. We're going to have a shift in energy. We're moving out of Taurus season, which was an earth energy, keeping us very heavily weighted in the here and now, in our physical circumstances, low and slow. Now we're moving into a mutable air energy in Gemini, which means that we're lightening the vibe. We're moving out of our physical circumstances. We're reviewing a couple of things from a different perspective. So this is essentially us kind of shedding that weight, shedding those old ideals, shedding that old perspective. And with that comes a lot of euphoria, a lot of pleasure, a lot of joy, a lot of happiness, a lot of lighter vibes. But of course, we have to feel weighted down in order to appreciate that great big release that is coming for us next week. We will be having tunnel vision, obsessed on certain ideas, on certain loops, on certain thoughts, on certain narratives. A lot of that is due to Mercury moving back into Taurus, but also the Palladium energy, the dark force agenda, kind of fighting it out for this next week. Again, it is a battle for your consciousness, for your energy, for your attention. So you do have to have tunnel vision. You have to put the blinders on and focus on what it is that makes you happy, what it is that brings you a sense of joy, what it is that you want to build. Taurus energy helps us be logical and practical on what it is that we want to build, what it is we want to create, what it is we want to give birth to. Many of us did not see the productivity that we wanted to see in Taurus season. No fault of our own. We can blame the eclipse energy. And of course, we'll never be the same. We went, if you rewind a month ago, we had different plans for ourselves, different goals, different outlook than we do now, because many things have changed. We've had a lot of loss. We've had a lot of things shift. We've had a lot of wild card energy thrown at us. We're not the same people. Now, with Mercury kind of moving back into this Taurus energy, now we got to put the blinders on and get serious, get focused on what it is that we're going to do with this new reality, this new information, these new opportunities. So it is essentially a rewind. I am going to stress to you, especially where Mars is going to be moving into its place of power in Aries. Now, this could be huge motivation, huge inspiration, a huge shift in our physical energy to get going, get things started, get things initiated. It can also trigger our rage, our anger, our aggression. Again, may I just remind you, there's going to be this impulsivity. There's going to be this rush of energy, this want, need, and desire to make up for lost time. But that does lead to physical, energetic burnout, which we do not want. I will be putting out astro forecasts for all of the astro events that I spoke are coming at us for the week. Probably be a little bit later than normal just due to my whole, speaking situation, but they are coming, and I will do my best to do a deep dive into both the pros and cons of each of these astro forecasts and what it may mean. I just want you to be cautiously aware of the energetic shift that is coming, so that you don't burn yourself out. We have huge goals, huge dreams, huge cycles that we need to initiate and get going and get started here. And yeah, essentially, because Jupiter is also in Aries right now, Jupiter and Aries, or Jupiter and Mars in Aries, they're going to team up, and there's going to be a huge amount of growth and productivity and improvement, progress, change. And that's not a bad thing, but we have to monitor our energy so that we're around to actually bring it to life, bring it into fruition. Because Venus is preparing to wrap up her time in Aries energy, where she's been a little bit more of an advocate for herself, fighting for what it is that is right and fair, what it is she believes in, what it is that she wants, needs, and desires. She's been on a little bit of her own tangent, really kind of forcefully aggressing herself in the right direction to get away from the direction that she's no longer willing to tolerate. Her moving into her place of power in Taurus at the end of the week is going to be another total shift of the heart space. So we have to expect heart activations. What do I mean by that? Well, emotions that come out of nowhere that either break us down to prepare us for a breakthrough. There could be physical heart palpitations, racing of the heart, skipping beats. It could feel tightness on your chest. If you got to cry, cry. If you got to scream, scream. Do whatever. Get the energy out. But just recognize that we are ending a cycle of this feminine divine energy having to embody the masculine energy that Aries is in order to cut the cord with situations, relationships, and contracts that have not been serving her well before she takes her throne in Taurus energy, where she basically has the power to even the playing fields again, to create peace and harmony and stability in her life, to take care of oneself now that we've implemented the boundaries needed in our personal relationships to do what is right for us and protect ourselves and moving forward. So where Venus is in her place of power in Taurus energy, which is an earth energy, you best believe that we are going to get to work to stabilize some of the circumstances that have been changing very rapidly and some of the wild cards that have been thrown at us, and where we're going to see a huge amount of change now that Mars will be in his place of power, and of course Venus in hers. So we're still in a Mercury retrograde, so we're still having old ideas come back, old memories, old people, old thoughts, old cycles, This is review time. This is recalibration time. This is reorganizational time. And because of that, we're having a lot of memory loss. We're having forgetful moments. We're disassociated with our physical lives. And again, I've spoken about this before, but retrograde is an ideal time for us to defrag our memory system. We are computers. There's a lot of memories that are not serving us well. That's why we get forgetful. It's why we lose track of time, because it's not important. We have to, free up the space, the memory capacity in our computer programs in order for us to have the space available for new experiences to actually be downloaded in a new operating system to take over our computer systems. So there is this interdimensional bleed. There's this disassociation from our physical circumstances. We are alive and well in our dream state, in our astral realm. We're actually way more productive in other dimensions than we are here, but it can feel a little bit discombobulating, especially when we snap back into our physical circumstances because of events popping off, and then takes us a minute to figure out what the F is going on. How are we going to handle this? What's going to happen? Plans are rapidly changing. Events are unfolding at very rapid rates. We're a little bit chaotic in this sense. Will make a lot of sense later. It will iron itself out and stabilize. But right now, we're just kind of needing to surrender to the chaos, because we understand that chaos and confusion is needed before the clarity comes. And we are gaining clarity each and every day. We're having aha moments, moments of revelation, epiphanies, realizations that totally change the game. And many of us think that, when I speak about clarity and insights, that it's going to be a good thing, that it's good information, good details. Most of the time it comes from bad things, realizing bad information, those aha moments that jolt you, those, situations where people show you their true colors, those realizations that you can't unknow. That in itself provides you a whole lot more clarity than the light and fluffy puzzle pieces that snap together so perfectly that give you a plan and a vision for the future. Sometimes it's figuring out what it is that we don't want that creates the beautiful framework for us to figure out what it is that we do want. So the paradigm shift that we're going through on the collective stage and in our individual lives is going to start speeding up, especially this week, where we have all of this incoming light codes from the Palladians that are trying to help us out and get us to a state of evolvement and awakening, to prepare us to see through the false narratives, the fear-based narratives of the dark agenda the elitists are currently planning for us. This is them helping us out. But in turn, if you don't understand what's going on, or even if you do understand what's going on, can feel very disorienting, especially with time speeding up, but yet nothing really changing. There's a lot more going on in the higher realms of our vibration and frequency than we'll ever understand or could ever make sense of. So I just want to thank you for your patience, for your understanding, for your love, for your support, especially sitting through this particular forecast that doesn't sound like me at all, that I hope, because I know many of you are sensitive and can feel other people's pain. I hope it wasn't too painful for you to listen to me struggle through this forecast. But I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for your love and support. I want to thank you for not only showing up for me, but for showing up for yourselves. So we do have a very wild week ahead of us, hopefully for the more positive and for the better. But again, that depends on how much mental control and emotional control that you have. We are attempting to break free of this, I'm going to say, negative emotional grid that they have created within our matrix to keep us oppressed and in pain and fear. We're attempting to override that program and enter in and anchor in the new framework of what 5D will actually be built on. But with any kind of adjustment, there are growing pains. So I do encourage you to drop me a comment to reach out in this community. We have some beautiful, knowledgeable, powerful people in this community that will be there to give you a little bit of a pep talk. I'm definitely going to rely more on text and type throughout this healing process that I'm currently going through than communicating and speaking. So I do want to thank you for your patience and your understanding for the daily forecast as well. They'll likely be a little bit more short, to the point. My rants are probably going to be to a minimum throughout this next little healing journey, but I do appreciate the fact that y'all just continue to show up for me, show me love, show me support, and I'm definitely feeling the love. So I wanted to thank you for that as well. Again, I just want to thank you for showing up, for being with me, for sharing your time, your energy, and your attention. I'm sending you nothing but love, and we'll talk to you soon.